Welcome to Sounds of Kavala and Thassos, a new podcast series from DiscoverGreece.com. Together, we'll be travelling to the city of Kavala and the island of Thassos just opposite, both in the northern Aegean Sea, a lesser-known part of Greece that's brimming with stories waiting to be told. We'll bring you thoughtful conversations and expert insights. From producers and artisans to winemakers and entrepreneurs, we're welcomed by local heroes who share inspiring stories that are both rooted in tradition and gazing forward to the future, to help you get beyond the surface of what makes a place worth travelling to. I'm Daphne. Stay with us. In this episode, we explore the island of Thassos through its most celebrated flavours, honey and olive oil. We'll turn to the golden liquid of Greek cuisine, olive oil, and visit the historic Sotirelis family mill in the village of Panagia. We learn about the centuries-old cultivation of Thassos' famous throuba olives, the traditional olive oil extraction methods passed down through generations, and the evolution of production into modern times. But first, we begin our day among the pine forests with the island's beekeepers, meeting Kostas Panagiotopulos of the Thassos Beekeepers Cooperative and Dimitris Koutlis, who carry forward generations of honey-making tradition, from the intricate process of producing pine honey to the healing properties and unique tastes that make Thassos honey world-renowned. We learn how careful hive management, seasonal migrations, and centuries-old know-how create a product unlike any other.
Thassos honey comes from pine trees that grow in the mountains. Nothing else is cultivated around there.
That's Kostas Panagiotopulos, the president of the Thassos Beekeepers Cooperative and a beekeeper himself. We meet him in the village of Prinos, about 45 minutes from the main port of Thassos, where the cooperative's facilities are located. In the same space, there's also a small honey museum, which we'll learn more about later. For Kostas, beekeeping runs in his blood, and it's been part of his life since childhood.
When I was young, I used to carry the beehives from the mountains down to the beach in winter. Back then, it felt like a game to me. The type of honey that comes from deep-rooted trees like pine isn't affected by radiation or by other pesticides. That's why it's pure and really exceptional.
Thassos is famous as being one of the very first places in Greece to produce pine honey, and its long beekeeping heritage gives the island a reputation for some of the purest, most distinctive honey in the Aegean. Unlike honeys made from blossoms, pine honey isn't made from flower nectar at all. Instead, it's produced when bees collect the sugary secretions of a tiny insect that lives on pine trees. The bees transform this honeydew into a thick, dark, mineral-rich honey with a mild sweetness and a slightly resinous, almost caramel-like flavor. And because it doesn't rely on blossoms, pine honey is more stable in terms of flavor, quality, and texture year to year, naturally lower in sugar and packed with antioxidants and trace minerals. We decide to meet a young beekeeper to hear firsthand what makes Thassos' honey unique. We meet Dimitris at the Koutlis honey headquarters after a drive winding through trees and passing through running streams all the way to the village of Lefki, where the unit for bottling, storage and distribution is located.
Thassos is a lush, green island that's covered around 99% by pine trees. Just pine. So this honey has become very well known across the whole of Greece, and even from a scientific point of view, it's considered one of the finest pine honeys in Greece.
That's Dimitris, a third-generation descendant of the Koutlis honey beekeeping business, one of the largest honey producers in Thassos, with distribution across Greece.
Firstly, the texture of pine honey should be somewhat thick, not very runny. Its color is amber, and its taste is neither sweet nor bitter. It has a mild flavor. It's the classic honey of choice for most people.
At 33 years old, Dimitris carries on the family tradition, which began with his grandfather, who he gets his name from, 70 years ago, and was later developed by his own father, alongside whom Dimitris learned the art of beekeeping.
So, have you been around the beehive since you were young?
Yes, I've been doing it since I was very young. As a kid, I was always in the truck with my father, wherever he went. We traveled all over Greece. As a child, being out in nature, I played, I ran in the forests. I mostly saw it as a game. I started to get familiar with the bees later. Slowly, I began to learn, and I started to like it. I followed him around and began seeing it more as beekeeping. I helped out as much as my age and strength allowed.
Today, Dimitris oversees every stage of production, from the initial beekeeping and hive management to bottling, sales, and marketing. But what is day-to-day life really like for a young beekeeper today?
You wake up in the morning, get ready, and start work around 8 or 9, working until the afternoon, until the sun goes down if it's summer. You inspect all the hives. Basically, you check each one, open the frames, see if the hive is active, if the queen is laying eggs, if the hive's process is progressing correctly, and if the bees are healthy. Once you finish work, you eat right there in the truck, right there in the countryside. You have a little fridge with you, eat some canned food, bread, tomatoes, cheese. You have a little picnic. Then you wash up, lie down in the truck and sleep, because we have beds in the truck. Top and bottom. Usually, there are 2 of us, and we always sleep properly in the beds. It's like you're camping, but you're working at the same time. Basically, all year round, you live in a truck permanently. You sleep in it, you live in it, you travel in it. You're basically a nomad. And that's why we're called nomadic beekeepers.
Moving the hives is a fundamental part of beekeeping, playing a key role in both the quality and quantity of honey produced. In winter, beekeepers relocate the hives to milder areas where pollen's available, ensuring the bees are well fed and remain healthy. By spring, from April to May, the colonies return to Thassos, nestled among the forests and hills in the spots deemed most suitable by each beekeeper. Ideally, it's in the quietest surroundings possible. This is the honey gathering season, when the bees gather nectar, or in this case honeydew from pine trees, to produce the island's renowned honey.
And from May until basically September or October, you harvest honey. You bring the hives to Thassos, leave them there for 15 to 20 days, collect the honey, and then you have to move them to a different location, because the bees need to rest for 10 to 15 days.
The story of honey in Greece stretches back centuries to the Minoan and Mycenaean civilizations, where it was valued not only as a food, but as a medicinal remedy. It's no coincidence that the ancient Greeks regarded nectar as a divine food, offering it in rituals and ceremonies. Today, we know that honey has mild antimicrobial properties and can soothe throat irritation. You might still remember your grandmother telling you to take a spoonful of honey whenever you had a cough.
If something hurts and you put a cloth with honey on it, the pain goes away. Or with a knee. Some people have surgery. Once my knee hurt, and I put honey on it, and the pain stopped.
But it's not only honey that acts as nature's healer. Other bee products like propolis, royal jelly, and pollen also have their own health benefits. Thassos explains.
Propolis is the bee's antibiotic. Whatever is dirty or harmful, the bee covers it with propolis. Royal jelly is a substance the queen feeds from. A queen that is fed only royal jelly lives 4 to 5 years, while a worker bee lives only 1 to 2 months. So it gives us longevity, helps with memory and the circulatory system, and many other things.
Beyond its healing properties, honey is a delicious and nutritious snack. Dimitris tells us more.
Honey is an ingredient you can use in many recipes when cooking, especially in salad dressings, in yogurt. I personally use it for ice cream and recommend it to others. If you drizzle it over vanilla ice cream, it caramelizes, hardens, and forms a crust on top, and it's really delicious. You should try it.
Honey has always held an important place in Greek tradition, and its production was carried out systematically long before modern machinery existed. Naturally, the process back then took much longer, and the overall yield was far smaller. Thassos' beekeeping tradition was once also a lifeline. During the German and Bulgarian occupations in the Second World War, when food supplies were scarce, honey became one of the island's few reliable sources of calories and trade.
The tradition goes back many, many years, because during the occupation, our island survived on beehives, olives, and fish. Beekeeping used to be very difficult. Let me give you an example. With the tools we had back then, 4 people working all day could produce 8 to 10 containers of honey. Today, if 4 of us are working, I will personally produce 170 containers of honey with the tools we have now. We used to transport the hives by cart with a horse, and we moved them from one area to the next.
One such cart can be seen outside the Honey Museum at the cooperative in Prinos.
Who made this museum?
Me. And how did I make it? When I invited them here, I told them bring whatever old items you have, and everyone looked me in the eye and asked, what old things should we bring?
The museum is housed in a small building that contains old tools such as wooden frames, hives made from reeds and tree trunks, hand-operated honey extractors, vintage beekeeping equipment and suits, as well as curated information about the history of honey in Greece.
This is a machine that 80 years ago we used to extract honey with. It put each frame inside. It can hold up to 4 at a time. Turn it with this handle, and the honey would come out of the sides left and right on the walls of the bucket. Then we'd collect it from the front with a bucket and pour it into a container.
The museum was conceived by Kostas 4 years ago with the purpose of preserving the island's beekeeping traditions.
It's true that if you form a bond with this work, you love it. You get attached. You don't care about production or money. You bond with it, and you support it in any way you can.
With a vision to support the profession and unite the island's beekeepers, the Thassos Beekeepers Cooperative was founded in 1976, with Kostas serving as its president. Until then, each village had its own cooperative.
Back then, 40 members joined, but over the next 3 to 4 years, the members grew to 400, and the honey production at the time was 800 to 1,000 tons.
Despite the economic and climatic challenges it's faced, the cooperative is now one of the country's largest beekeeping centres, counting 100 active beekeepers and producing around 500 tons of honey each year. Spread across a 4-acre site in the village of Prinos, the Thassos Beekeepers Cooperative boasts modern facilities for honey extraction, packaging and storage.
These here are heating chambers, where when we bottle the honey, we somehow slightly warm it a little so that it can be processed properly.
The process works as follows. Beekeepers who are members of the cooperative bring the honey they've collected from their hives, have it weighed, and receive payment for the quantity supplied. From there, the cooperative handles all the remaining stages, taking the honey through to its final packaging and distribution, primarily within Greece, but also abroad. Before we leave, we ask Kostas what he enjoys most about being at the hive.
Watching the bees is like seeing an entire community. Some bees are scouts, so when you move the hive somewhere, their job is to search for food, and when they find it, they do something characteristic. They climb straight up inside the hive so that the others can follow and show where the food is. There are the guards. These are the drone bees, which exist just to fertilize the queen. Once the roll is over, they are gathered and killed. There's so much about this that makes you bond with the hives.
For Dimitris too, the hive is his whole life, and he learned to live alongside the bees rather than fearing them.
Firstly, you shouldn't be afraid of it. If a bee walks on you, feel it, listen to it, and don't be scared. Don't try to shake it off, don't run. Just stay relaxed and it won't harm you. Stay calm and then it won't harm you. But if you jerk, run, or show that you're scared, the bee senses it and will sting you. You won't escape. There's no way around it.
From the fascinating world of bees and precious honey, we now move to the king of Greek cuisine, olive oil. The oil of Thassos is made from the island's native olive variety, the famous throuba. This variety gives the olive oil a distinctive, slightly peppery flavour and a golden yellow hue. Olive cultivation on the island is extensive, with thousands of acres of olive trees, some of which are said to be 1,500 years old. Today, young producers continue this tradition, offering high-quality extra virgin olive oil while preserving a heritage that dates back to the early 20th century. One such family is the Sotirelis family, whose mill has been among the most renowned in Thassos for over a century.
For my family, olive oil is a product that can't be missing from the house. It's on the table permanently.
That's Kleopatra Paplomatta, a member of the Sotirelis family and wife of Sotiris Sotirelis.
The color of Thassos olive oil is golden yellow. It's not like what many are used to from oils in Chalkidiki or down in Kalamata or Crete, which are more greenish. Thassos oil is golden yellow, and the color comes from the variety of the olive. And its taste is different. These aren't flavors we are used to. It has unique characteristics. It's fruity and intense because the compounds that we mentioned, oleacin and oleocanthal, give it a distinct bitterness at the end. So when we taste the oil and swallow it, after a few seconds, we feel a slight burning. But that burn is actually a signature feature of these compounds in the olive oil.
Beyond its flavour, it's also got a myriad of health benefits and is part of what makes the Mediterranean diet so famously healthy worldwide. Kleopatra tells us more about the findings of a recent study on the olive oils of Thassos specifically that was led by a Greek professor.
Some analyses and studies were done on the Thassos olive, the throuba variety, and they found it has a very, very high content of polyphenols and antioxidants. Specifically two compounds called oleacin and oleocanthal, which have strong protective properties. Studies have shown that these two compounds help protect against Alzheimer's, have anti-cancer properties, and protect against oxidative stress.
We meet her at the family's old olive mill in the picturesque village of Panagia. The village served as the capital of Thassos after the 1821 revolution against the Ottoman rule, and many islanders moved here and to other mountain villages from the coastal areas to escape pirate invasions. One of Panagia's most charming features is its cobblestone streets and traditional architecture, including stone-built houses with wooden balconies. Throughout the village, channels of running water from nearby mountain springs still flow, a feature that made the location ideal for operating water mills, the energy machines of the past, which were essential for olive oil production.
In this location is the traditional olive mill of the Sotirelis family, who started producing olive oil in 1915. In 1915, there was no electricity in Thassos. Electricity arrived relatively late, around 1968. So how did they produce olive oil? They used water. They built a water mill. The falling water turned it, and the motion was transmitted to the other machines in the mill.
We go down to the courtyard at the back of the old olive mill, at a lower level that's designed to stay cooler, being closer to the ground. There, on show, are the old wooden machines of the mill, which were once powered by the energy generated from the watermill itself.
At first, the olives went under the millstones, which rotated and crushed the olives, including the pits, creating an olive paste. This paste was then placed into olive cloths, which acted like filters, a bit like sacks, let's say. Originally, these cloths were made from coconut fibers, and the ones we see here are still made that way. The paste that was made under the stones was put into the cloths, stacked one on top of the other, and placed in the press. Pressure was applied over the cloths. Inside remained the solid parts of the olive, the skin, the flesh and the pit, while the liquids ran out. But the liquid from the olive isn't just olive oil, it also contains plant fluids. Olives are fruit, and like all fruits, they contain water and plant fluids. To isolate the pure oil, a machine called a separator was used. It works with centrifugal force, spinning to separate the pure oil from the water. That's how the processing was done.
This was the traditional way of producing olive oil, not just in Thassos, but across Greece. The big change came with the arrival of electricity in the 1970s for Thassos, when the method of powering the machines changed, transforming both the equipment and the volume of production.
To give you an idea of scale, this water-powered olive mill produced about 150 kilos of oil a day. Later, with electricity, in its final years, the mill eventually reached the production of around 450 kilos of olive oil per hour.
Until 2006, the Sotirelis family produced olive oil in this space using electric-powered machines. Today, the family's even more modern mill is located at the port of Thassos, Limenas, and can produce 2 tons of olive oil per hour. That's 2,000 kilos. In general, the stages of the olives ripening follow this pattern. In October, the olives are green. As November approaches, they turn brownish-purple, and by December, they begin to blacken.
In December, if the olives remain on the tree, they start to wrinkle naturally. If you look at the trees in Thassos at the end of December, you'll see what we call raisin-like, wrinkled olives. But this happens naturally, not through any chemical process.
All of this wouldn't make sense if we didn't get to taste the olive oil ourselves. So we head upstairs to the mill's shop for an olive oil tasting.
The quality we'll be tasting is extra virgin olive oil, cold pressed and unfiltered. What does this mean? Extra virgin olive oil is the natural juice of the highest quality olive. It's the best olive oil you can get. We'll be tasting two different types of the same quality: early harvest oil and classic extra virgin olive oil. The difference is this: at the start of the production season, which begins around mid to late October, the olives are still green. Oil made from these green olives is called early harvest oil. Early harvest oil has a strong, spicy taste, very aromatic, very bitter, with intense fruity and spicy notes. Its color is, let's say, a bit greener, even though, as we said, Thassos oil doesn't have the typical green color. It's more yellowish. From mid-November onward, as the olives start to ripen, the oil begins to lose some of that intense spiciness and bitterness. The quality is still excellent, but the levels of oleacin and oleocanthal, the two antioxidant compounds we mentioned, decrease. So the taste becomes a little bit more balanced and less strong.
Η γεύση αρχίζει και είναι πιο ισορροπημένη, δεν είναι τόσο δυνατή.
Για να είναι καλός πρέπει να έρθει να πάει κοντά σε μελισσικό και
To become a good beekeeper, you have to spend time with one and truly love it. No matter what you tell someone, if they don't love it for themselves, if they start thinking about what will I get out of it, they'll never be a beekeeper, no matter what advice you give them.
Living out in nature is really wonderful. First of all, because you have peace, you can work quietly, nobody bothers you. All day long you hear the birds, the bees, it calms your mind. You're sort of empty and are only focused on your work. The profession of the beekeeper is a special, demanding profession, and once I decided to continue it, I knew I had to take it as far as I could. I fell in love with it. I committed myself to the profession, and I continue to do it.
Whoever tries good quality raw olive oil, I don't think can ever change to something else.
However long you spend in Thassos, its flavours are one of the best ways to truly experience the island. Thick, dark pine honey from the hives and golden, slightly peppery olive oil pressed from centuries-old trees. Beekeepers and olive oil producers are just some of the island's people who turn care and skill into products that are unmistakably of this place. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Sounds of Kavala and Thassos and that it stirred your appetite to visit. There are more episodes waiting for you, each one offering new sounds, stories, and perspectives from these fascinating destinations in northern Greece. This episode of DiscoverGreece.com's podcasts is sponsored by the Tourism Partnership of Kavala and Thassos. It's a production by the Greek Podcast Project. You can find our episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thanks for listening.